Hey everybody, this is Gordon again. Welcome to day 13 of the Valhalla Project Homestead Marathon exercise. We were down for Christmas Eve and Christmas, and then yesterday was our second power outage day, our voluntary power outage day, where we tested some of our systems. The wood stove, which we've been experimenting with now since we had the new chimney put in, has really been performing well. One interesting thing that we discovered, though, was that the smoke alarm, which had been put in prior to us purchasing the house and was never really tested in the sense of there never was a fire in here until we got this thing operating, really does work. And we discovered this when Chris went to load the fire at 2:30 in the morning, and the smoke, because you always get a little residual smoke. The smoke coming out of here drifted right up into the smoke alarm, so we had this piercing beep, beep, beep with a little computer voice saying fire, fire, which we replied, yes, we know, we built it. One of the neat things about this stove, in addition to the internal design, which burns down here and then comes here and gives you an additional burn in this gas catching compartment before it goes out, is that it was specifically designed to allow you to cook or to heat water on it. We have this cast iron little Viking dragon here, which goes well with Valhalla. That's full of water, and so that humidifies the air during the night. You can put cooking pots on here. You could. This section is slightly cooler than that section, so you have some kind of discretion on what sort of heat you want to use. Chris designed and primarily made this last week in order to neaten the place up and make it a whole lot more efficient, and it does, because it gives us some vertical storage as opposed to everything being horizontal. Got our larger wood down here, our medium size, and then we can put the kindling and the starter stuff up in here. One of the things we discovered, and this was part of what we did this Homestead Marathon for, is that we didn't have exactly the right kind of screws to join these two together. We had little tiny ones that didn't work, and we had little longer ones that worked but stuck out. The good news is that we drink wine. So we were able to take these wine corks, trim them up, and just simply screw them right in place here. They screw right down on top of the wood screw. It posed a safety hazard. Somebody sticking their hand or arm in here could open it up and make a nasty and painful cut. So this takes care of that. Because it is day 13, a lot of our perishable vegetables and fruit that we had acquired prior to starting the marathon exercise are beginning to lose their vibrancy, and they're starting to spoil. I mean, what the heck. And so what we're doing is beginning to tap on our dehydrated stuff, because during the summer and early fall we spent a lot of time with the dehydrator, the Excalibur dehydrator, dehydrating things like bell peppers and carrots and onions and these sorts of things that dehydrate and store very nicely. And it's quite amazing, because you can take an incredibly small quantity of dehydrated material, vegetable material, put it in water to rehydrate it, and I would challenge you to be able to tell the difference with the fresh stuff, particularly if you're using it in stews and soups and spaghetti sauces, things like this. We, as a rule, don't can, because canning requires you to, particularly vegetables, requires you to get them up at to such an intense heat for such a long period of time that what you're essentially doing is pasteurizing the nutrients out of the material, out of the foodstuffs. And so what we recommend, and what we've been doing, is either frozen or dehydrated at this stage. For some of the other products, it's not such a big deal, but for the vegetables, we thought it was. Another tip that we learned yesterday is that for all its complications, a chest freezer can be very handy in a power down situation. If you have an upright freezer and you open it, then the cold air flows down and out. If you have a chest freezer and you open it, particularly if it's for a brief period of time, the cold air tends to stay lower and you lose less. So one of the tricks that we've come up with is to put frozen vegetables on the top layer of the chest freezer. That way when we have the power outage and we need to put some cooling material into the ice chest to keep the non-frozen perishables from spoiling, we'll simply open the top of the chest freezer, grab those few packets of frozen vegetables, stick them into the ice chest, close both, and boom, we're set to go. And then by the time they're thawed, boom, what do? You put them in the pot and you have them for dinner. So it's perfect. I know a lot of you were probably tied up with friends and family for the Christmas holidays, but that's a couple of days behind us now, and we've got an interim period here before we get into the New Year's Eve, New Year's, that kind of thing. So I want to remind you, the Valhalla project issued right before Christmas a challenge, and that was the Reconnect 3 challenge. And as a reminder, what we ask you to do, what we challenge you to do, is to think back on 3 of the close friends you used to have, perhaps in the same unit, perhaps downrange with you, whatever, that you hadn't spoken to in quite some time. Give them a phone call. Talk to them. Don't text them or write them anything. Call them, reconnect. Ask them in turn to reconnect with 3 others. Because one of the benefits of this is that they may reconnect with somebody that you remember, but you haven't had direct contact with either. So that brings even more into your fold. And that lets that person know who may have been thinking about you that you're available and you can reconnect with them. So if you reconnect with 3 and every one of those 3 reconnects with 3 more, we're already spreading this thing. And that's what we need to do. We have to depend on ourselves. Be self-reliant. In other words, if we're concerned about taking care of veterans and taking care of those who have served, then where do we start? We start with ourselves and with our close friends. And that's what this Reconnect 3 is all about. In other words, let's not wait for government, agencies, even nonprofits like Valhalla Project to get involved. You take the challenge, you Reconnect 3, challenge them to Reconnect 3, and we'll take care of ourselves. We took care of ourselves and our buddies downrange. We can take care of ourselves and our buddies at home. Thanks, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.